Hello and welcome to Useless Anime Knowledge, the show where I do pointlessly meticulous research on things that no one cares about. Today I'm going to talk about the original anime series Wolf's Rain, produced by Studio Bones in 2003. Wolf's Rain is a slow-burning, atmospheric tone piece with super high-quality production values and some intensely bleak moments. Any spoilers in this review will be prefaced with a warning, and I recommend that if you find yourself interested in this show, check it out before viewing the spoiler sections. The entire show can easily be found on YouTube. Wolf's Rain was conceptualized by Nobumoto Keiko, the head writer on the legendary anime classic Cowboy Bebop, at the time that she was working on that show. Nobumoto had discussed the idea for a show about wolves on a journey with Cowboy Bebop producer Minami Masahiko. Not long after Cowboy Bebop finished airing, Minami left Studio Sunrise along with character designers Kawamoto Toshihiro and O Sakahiroshi to form a new studio called Bones, and a few years later, Wolf's Rain became the studio's third original television work. Most of the staff who had previously worked together on Cowboy Bebop returned to work on Wolf's Rain, from the former Sunrise staff that founded Bones to freelancers like writer Sato Dai, whom you'll probably be well acquainted with by now if you've been watching enough of my videos. Even music legend Yoko Kanno returned in full force with 2 soundtracks worth of breathtaking original music, and it's hardly an exaggeration to say that her soundtrack plays a huge role in making the series work. Wolf's Rain boasts impressively consistent, high-quality artwork, both in its backgrounds and character animations, even if there aren't a whole ton of big animation moments. This quality, however, came at the cost of a troubled TV run. After only 5 episodes, Wolf's Rain had to take a 2-week hiatus because Studio Bones hadn't finished the next episodes yet. The studio ran into the same issue once again after episode 14, but instead of taking a hiatus again, they put together 4 consecutive recap episodes, likely as a result of pressure from the network to not cause any further delays. As a result, when the show finished its TV run with episode 26, the story was not yet completed, and the last 4 episodes were produced as OVAs, which were released in 2 2-episode packages nearly 6 months after the original TV run had finished. Wolf's Rain was very quickly licensed, dubbed, and released in the US by Bandai, and was broadcast on Adult Swim mere months after the OVAs had concluded in Japan. The series was a hit in the US as well, and the OVA episodes were released and broadcast as part of the main series. While the 4 recap episodes were skipped on the Adult Swim broadcast, Bandai obnoxiously released them in the US all on one regularly priced disc, infuriating many fans of the series. I can only imagine that this was the result of pressure from the Japanese companies to release those episodes on DVD in the US, though in the original Japanese release those episodes were split across 2 DVDs which contained 2 other episodes apiece. Some say that putting all the recap episodes on one disc was a great idea because it meant you could just not buy that DVD, but it doesn't take much looking to find that many customers were unaware of what they were getting when they bought the disc. Thankfully, Bandai eventually re-released the series in one collection, but since Bandai has completely ceased production of anime DVDs since 2012, and no one has picked up the license, the series isn't as easy to come by anymore. By now you've probably noticed that I'm focusing heavily on the production aspects of this series, and that's because the show itself is pretty light on themes and story altogether. As I said, it's more of a tone piece than anything, which is why the character designs, animation, art, and music are so integral. Showing you screenshots and playing you music from the series will do way more to inform you of what it's about than talking about the plot or themes would. Wolf's Rain has a small cast of fairly tightly knit characters, all of whom have unique personalities but more or less work towards the same goal. Everyone in the show is in search of paradise, but no one's really sure what paradise is. It's a show about lost souls searching for a future and a place where they can be happy. The entire series has an ephemeral, magical quality to it, which keeps it just far enough out of our reality to where we can sort of relate to it, yet all of it seems distant and otherworldly. The most interesting aspect of Wolf's Rain is the fact that the 4 main characters are indeed wolves, and while they are more often represented in the human forms that they use to blend in with society, there's always a distinct feeling that they aren't human characters. They're not necessarily realistic wolves either, as all of them have super strength and agility alongside weird mystical abilities, but the point stands that their bestial nature is a huge part of what makes them interesting. The world that the series is set in seems like a post-apocalyptic setting, yet not necessarily after the apocalypse of our own world. The series producer has stated in an interview included on disc 2 of the US release that they didn't want to specify that the series was on Earth or in the future because it would limit the viewer's imagination, and I think this was a great choice. Just like with the inhuman nature of the wolf characters, the elements of unique mythology and magic in the show's world keep it feeling distant and ethereal, relatable just enough for us to understand what's going on, yet strange enough for us to feel disconnected from the setting. Most of the series deals primarily with the very slow development of its principal characters and unfolding of the narrative, which can never ever be accused of feeling rushed. I wouldn't quite say that the series is boring, but what keeps its repetitious dialogue and tone from getting old is simply how unique and magical the world seems to be. There are parts where the series drags, and I feel that it could have been condensed by at least a couple of episodes, but if a slow burning plotline doesn't bother you, or indeed is your preference, then Wolf's Rain should be right up your alley. In terms of themes, there are light pinings of existentialism running through the series, especially in the later episodes, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that the series comments on them. I will now discuss some spoilers, so skip to the time indicated on screen if you don't want to hear them. The main theme that the series focuses on in its climax is the cycle of death and rebirth, with the world eventually coming to an end and being reborn again by the endless cycle of the wolf's journey to restore the world. Kiba and Darcia's dialogue in the final episodes indicate that the reshaping of the future is dependent on who it is that activates said reshaping, and it's suggested that true paradise can never be unlocked because of the curse that Darcia carries into paradise. This can largely be taken as saying that there will always be an element of evil and impurity that taints our world, so we'll never truly make it to a perfect world, though we can keep on trying. The series' ending shows a world closely resembling our own, wherein all of the wolves have been reborn, and Darcia's curse seems to have made it through as well, meaning that the cycle will eventually have to repeat. All of this is handled with really aloof dialogue, and even a lot of the character backstories and explanations end up feeling less understood and more just kind of felt. The series maintains its otherworldliness and non-specific meaning through to the end, most likely so that the viewer can use their imagination to fill in the blanks and interpret the series in a way that works for them. As such, I feel that if I went out of my way to interpret the series and its ending here, I would kind of spoil it and ruin the purity of the experience. If you have any ideas about the show's themes, then by all means leave your thoughts in the comments, but please mark all spoilers if you do so. I will delete any comments containing unmarked spoilers. In the original Japanese dub of the series, the four main characters were voiced by young new actors, while the rest of the cast was formed of veterans. The producer indicated that he was happy with how this worked out, but I actually watched the show dubbed in English, so I can't comment. Surprisingly enough, as someone who only watches anime dubbed in English when my girlfriend forces me to, I actually had no problems with the Wolf's Rain dub whatsoever. The series doesn't have many cultural references or dialogue that would be jarring in English, largely due to its deliberate lack of real-world association. Each of the English voice actors are veterans that any dub fan will know the names of, and while the show doesn't exactly require the most diverse or emotive performances in the first place, they all do their jobs without any problem. I actually felt kinda glad that I wasn't watching the show in Japanese, because some of the sentence structures and dialogue that feels very anime to me would have taken away from the series' otherworldly mystique. I never thought I'd say this in my life, but this is one anime that might be better watched dubbed if you don't understand Japanese, even if only because having subtitles on screen would detract from the breathtaking artwork. And that pretty much wraps up my analysis of Wolf's Rain. I've got another video coming up where I'm going to talk about the entire creative diaspora of Cowboy Bebop, and I'll probably do a history of Bones at some point as well. I just really wanted to get this video out because I've had it sitting on my hard drive for a while. Join me again for yet another Bones or Manglobe series in the near future.
Generation burned with